Hello, and welcome to another fanfiction reading. Oh, okay. So there's some things that happened. Okay, so if you remember, I actually don't know how long ago it was, but in a fanfiction reading, I said that why did the younger me stupidly put like 4 fairy tale fanfictions in a row, and then put 4 RWBY fanfictions in a row? And while that is still very much true in a way, I did in fact put them there. One of them seems to have gone. uh I was kind of looking forward to reading this story called RWBY Plays. So it's like Team RWBY plays a bunch of video games, which I was kind of looking forward to doing that, but it turns out that somebody deleted it or something. So we're on to the next one, which this one I think is a good one. So a while ago, which has turned into not as long ago as before, or as it would have been, we read I Scream by TheNeopolitan, and you are reading this correctly. This is the sequel. However, I haven't read it yet, unlike the other one. Although the other one was magnificent. But, yeah. So, yeah. We'll see what happens in Shatter Me. Okay. Anyways. Morning coffee. The first thing that I noticed when I woke up that morning was a strange hissing noise and the smell of coffee. The second thing I noticed when I opened my eyes was Timber Wolf. He was my teammate, my partner, and possibly my boyfriend. Yeah, that happened. We hadn't quite discussed what we were yet. I sat up and stretched, looking over Wolf and seeing my other 2 teammates. Richard, yeah, somebody fucked up there. They added an extra letter and missed out on one of them. Jeez, Arcana and Bolt Dustfield. Well, we haven't seen their last names in forever. Rach, our team leader, was up and making coffee and was humming softly. It was good to see her smiling again. Bolt was sleeping soundly on his bed. He had one foot off the end of the bed and his arm off the other end, snoring loudly. A small but loud beeping noise alerted people in the room that it was time for all of us to get up and go to class. Oh boy. You must be late. Bolt startled awake and jerked himself into a sitting position. What? Who's there? He demanded groggily, nearly falling off his bed. I giggled softly and rolled my eyes. He did something along those lines every morning to the same alarm. Wolf did something that he did just about every morning too, which was growl softly and pull the blankets up above his face. I chuckled at his reaction and reached over to him. Come on, Wolf, it's time to get up, I told him softly. I reached over and ruffled his burnt red hair and ruffled the part between his wolf ears. He pulled the blankets down just far enough so he could peek at me, saying, but I don't wanna. And he pulled from his signature begging moves the puppy dog eyes. Oh no, I told him, resisting the look. You're not getting out of this so easily. His eyes went back to normal as he grumbled something as he turned his body so his face was hidden in the pillow. I rolled my pink and brown eyes and shook his shoulder. Come on, we have to get ready for class, I told him with a sigh. He mumbled something into the pillow that sounded like a pouty no. I thought for a moment, how was I going to get this childish wolf faunus out of bed today? A grin spread across my face as an idea came to mind. Ooh. I crawled across the space between us on my hands and knees and leaned down close to him. And I blew into his red wolf ears and leaned back. I barely managed to move out of the way of his reaction, which was to give a surprised gah and flail so dramatically that he fell out of the bed and landed on the floor. It was a large fall, so I wasn't very concerned. Instead, I laughed so hard that I clutched my stomach and rolled around the bed. Hey, he complained from his sitting position on the floor. I rolled over to look at his pretend grumpy expression. Aw, poor Muffin, I teased. I reached out to poke his nose, but he licked my hand instead. Ew, I complained, but it was something that I should have seen coming. Aw, you guys are so cute, Bolt squealed in a teasing high-pitched voice before he pretended to throw up. I stuck my tongue out at him in response, and he mimicked my action. That's enough, children, Rach said in a slightly grumpy voice from her spot at the coffee machine. I had almost forgotten that she was not a morning person either. All of you need to get ready for class. If we're late, Goodwitch will have our heads. That put us all in emotion. No one messed with Professor Goodwitch. If that woman didn't kill us for being late, then Rach would probably do it herself. Within a few minutes, we were all ready to go. Well, that was pretty fast, Rachel laughed. Oh, shit. Now that she had finished her cup of coffee and was in a much better mood. She laughed and threw an arm around Bolt's shoulders. Let's get moving, then. I took Wolf's hand in mine and pulled him along as well. Okay. Chapter 2. Mammaries. It actually is 6 chapters. I don't know if this is over or it hasn't been updated in a while or something. I don't know. I haven't really been paying attention to it. I mean, I did kind of forget, but yeah, no. I've been thinking about a lot of other things, unsurprisingly. Anyways, memories. The narrator's POV. Cinder strolled down the dark alley dressed in black. She didn't want to be recognized by anyone right now. She came to a shabby, broken building with the windows boarded up. Right above the door hung a lilac-colored sign, welcoming anyone who dared to enter inside. Damn. All right. Cinder reached for the door but recoiled and stepped out of the way as she heard steps approaching from the other side. Moments later, it was thrown open quickly by a man who rushed out. He looked quite disturbed and his hair was disheveled. Crazy old bat, he exclaimed, not even seeing Cinder as he scurried away. Cinder couldn't help but smirk at his fear. What a fool. She caught the door before it swung shut and stepped inside. The room was poorly lit by candlelight, and an older woman was doubled over with laughter, and she had long lilac hair that was very curly and an old gown that was torn and tattered. On her head were bat wings. She was a bat faunus after all. Cinder wasn't sure if the wings were attached to the woman's head or not. She had given up on trying to understand the old woman long ago, but her talents at least were to be respected. She hadn't heard Cinder enter and didn't notice her presence until she spoke. Another satisfied customer, Batsy? Cinder asked, getting the woman's attention. Who's there? The woman demanded, snapping her attention to Cinder. The old woman had an eye patch over her right eye and squinted with the lilac one on the left as she tried to see through the dark of the room. Have you forgotten me? Cinder asked with a smirk. She knew that Batsy had an incredible memory, especially for an old woman. I never forget a face, Batsy scowled, moving closer. Her eyes widened as she could now see who it was. Aha, Cinder, my child. So good to see you. That man, just a poor bastard who wanted to forget that he caught his wife cheating on him. Oh, what can I do for you? She grinned widely, revealing her fangs. Knowing that the old woman couldn't see, Cinder rolled her eyes. She disapproved of how Batsy called everyone she associated with my child, despite their age or having no relation to her. Hiding her annoyance, Cinder kept her voice calm and did her best to not sound demanding, knowing that it would help the Batsy do what she wanted. Batsy hated demanding people. I need a favor, Cinder said lightly. Ooh, what's in it for me? Batsy cackled. Cinder almost reluctantly tossed a black bag that she'd been holding on to a nearby table. Why does it say Betsy this time? Whatever. Opened it and let out a strangled-sounding shriek of joy as she pulled out an apple with her unnaturally long fingers. The bag was full of fruit that was on the brink of being rotten. Batsy eagerly dug her fangs into the apple, loving the taste and how it squished. While Batsy was distracted, Cinder sneered in disgust. The whole scene was revolting and she hated it. But if it got Batsy to cooperate, then it was necessary. She felt her skull buzz in her pocket, and so she knew that Emerald and Mercury were ready for Plan B. Batsy finished the apple and rested her hand on her stomach. Ah, that hit the spot very nicely. Now, where were we? I need to use your gift to make someone forget about me, Cinder said simply. Ah, yes, I love memory manipulation. Show me, Batsy said eagerly. She rested a crystal ball on the table and motioned Cinder to come forward. You remember how this works, yes? I do. Cinder nodded. She removed her black glove and rested it on the top of the crystal. Dark smoke swirled around its center. Show me my victim, Batsy clapped her hands eagerly. Cinder closed her eyes and focused, recalling an image in her mind. The image showed in the ball. A smaller girl dressed in the theme of Neapolitan ice cream. Batsy placed both of her hands on the crystal ball's sides. Oof. Anyways. Oh. Oh. My neck. It hurts. Delicious, Batsy murmured. Now, the memories that you two share. Cinder recalled Roman bringing his new henchman to one of their meetings and the numerous meetings after that. She was going to recall a few more things when Betsy cut her thoughts short. The old woman let out an annoyed screech. Too many, she shouted. There are too many memories here for me to delete. Even for me to alter and put in your place. It cannot be done. Cinder quickly pulled her hand from the orb so her annoyance wouldn't show through it. That's quite alright, Batsy. There's another way for us to remove the obstacle that is Neapolitan. Such a shame, Batsy grumbled. Her memories would have tasted so sweet. Perhaps I have another job for you, Batsy, Cinder told the old woman. She pressed a button on her scroll signaling for Emerald and Mercury. They entered the dark space, dragging in a boy and a girl that were tied up and gagged. What's this? Betsy asked curiously. I need you to erase these two from the memories of someone else and replace them with the two that they have brought. I suppose that you'll also want me to erase the memories of the bound two as well, Batsy asked in an unamused tone. Cinder motioned to Emerald and Mercury with her fingers. They looked at each other with each tossed a bag similar to the one that Cinder had brought. One of them filled with the same kinds of fruit and the other filled with money. Batsy let out another excited shriek and said, "We have a deal. Now bring forward those two and that go into the memories." I'm confused of this. Okay. Emerald dragged the woman over and placed one of her hands on the ball. The woman's emotions and recent memories flooded into the ball. There was a sense of panic, fear, and not knowing what was going on. She thought of her daughter telling the baby that she loved her. She was a single mother, a young single mother. Batsy could practically feel her panic and taste her fear. It was an incredible rush for the old woman. What's going on? Mercury asked Emerald in a hushed voice. I'm not sure exactly, but the old woman is figuring out how this woman moves and sounds so she can work her into someone's memories in my place. That's why we had to find people our size, Emerald tried to explain. Silence, Cinder snapped at them, not wanting them to disturb Batsy. The two fell silent and dropped their gazes. When Batsy had finished with the girl, they did the same with the boy. He was a partying college student who was too drunk to fully understand what was happening. Betsy pushed through the taste of beer and the haze of drunkenness to urge him to remember the previous day so she could get a clearer memory. Once she had done that, she brought Emerald forward. Show me my victim, Batsy told her with a grin. An image swirled around the ball and then focused to reveal another girl. This one was bigger and had long golden yellow hair. Yang Zhou Long, Emerald murmured, saying the name aloud to help herself focus. She showed the woman all of the memories that she had of Yang. Then Mercury stepped forward and did the same. There weren't many times that Yang had seen him. The main two were when she fought against him with Neo. The main two were when she fought against him with Neo and the time when RWBY speed them from... What the fuck? Whatever. Yang had separated from her team and had gotten into a fight with those two assassins. Any other members of Team RWBY had simply seen Emerald and Mercury as students from another academy. Now that I can do, Betsy cackled. She looked to the man and the woman that were bound, pulling off her eye patch to reveal a lilac-colored eye with glowing red swirl mark that looked like it had been crudely carved into it. She moved closer to the first woman, rubbing her fingers together until they cracked with lilac-colored electricity. Don't worry, she laughed as the woman's eyes went wide with fear. You won't remember this pain. She pressed her fingertips to the sides of the woman's head, the purple electricity flowing into her head. The woman tried to scream in pain, but the electricity that coursed through her mind also paralyzed her. She sat frozen, eyes wide in horror and her mouth agape in a silent scream until Batsy was done with her. The old woman laughed and removed her hands. The younger woman went limp as she lost consciousness. When she woke up, she wouldn't remember even being pulled from her bed. Batsy did the same to the boy before transforming into a bat and flying out the window. She had gotten the coordinates to her next victim from Mercury's memories. Yang Zhou Long pulled up next to Junior's club on her motorcycle. She got off of it and removed her helmet, shaking out her golden blonde locks. A loud screech that sounded like a bat echoed in the darkness around her. She searched the sky for it out of instinct, but shrugged it off. She had work to do. When she turned to walk towards the club, an old woman appeared within an inch of her face. Before Yang could even react or flinch, Betsy placed her electric fingertips on Yang's head. The old woman let out an excited laugh at the rush of Yang's first emotions, then Yang's memories. She was particularly fond of the ones where Yang was so angry that her eyes glowed crimson. They burned like fire. Your thoughts, your memories, they're delicious. Betsy screeched eagerly. Yang couldn't move. She couldn't even process what was happening. When Betsy removed her fingers, Yang fell back so she was leaning on her bike with her eyes closed. I hope I get to taste them again someday, Betsy cackled before turning into a bat and flying off. Yang blinked in confusion and stood back up, processing where she was. Oh, right, she was going to see Junior to see if he could find some people for her. She must have been daydreaming, she scolded herself. She needed to focus. It was very important for her to find, what were their names again? She paused and tried to remember. Emery and Matthew, were those their names? Yang grabbed her head as it throbbed in pain. She felt like she'd been hit in the head with a bat. What the fuck? She tried to recall what they looked like. Did the girl have short blue or pink hair? And the boy, didn't he wear mostly white? Yang shook her head, trying to clear it, but it was no use. She needed to go back to her room and rest. She placed her helmet on her head and drove back to Beacon, wondering what had gotten into her. Oof. That's rough. New team. Neopolitan's POV. Professor Goodwich's classes were interesting to say the least. Because the Vital Festival was being restarted, we had numerous new students. The room was a lot more crowded than it usually was. Goodwich stood in the center of the sparring area and waited for everyone to quiet down. This, on its own, was enough to tell me that class would be different today. Quiet down, students. I have an announcement to make. The professor said to any that dared keep whispering. The room fell silent instantly. Professor Goodwich gave a small approving nod before continuing. As I'm sure you're aware, we have quite a few more students than normal. Each of the professors have prepared special lessons to welcome the new arrivals. Here at Beacon, as well as the other schools, we have split you up into teams of 4 and taught you how to trust and depend on your teammates. However, it is likely that there will be times in your lives where your teammates cannot be there, and you will be forced to depend on those around you. Therefore, my lesson will be pairing each of you up into temporary teams of 4, seeing if you can work through the new obstacles. The students murmured among one another, and I glanced nervously. It was true that I had become a lot more comfortable with talking lately, but that was with my team, with my friends. But that was people that I was comfortable with. But this? Wolf gave me an encouraging nod before Professor Prodizor Goodwich cut through the noise and said sharply, "Are there any objections?" No one dared speak against her. "Good," she nodded. "Here are your teams." Around the room, screens lit up showing pictures and the names. I groaned mentally, not even knowing which screen to turn to. Everyone got up to move to their screen. Before I walked away, Wolf pulled me into a hug. "You'll do fine," he whispered. You'll do fine, he whispered encouragingly before jogging off to find his new team. It took me a moment to realize that I had a wide smile on my face. It slipped away as I began looking for my own team. It didn't take me long to find my screen. And there was already a boy beside it. He was pretty tall. I mean, at least 6 feet compared to my 4'9". He was dressed in mostly gray and black and had a large broadsword with him. He noticed me as I approached. "Hi," I offered cautiously. "Hey," he nodded polite without much emotion. I stood next to him and he scanned the room for our other 2 teammates. Ahead of us, I spotted a girl with black hair that was pulled back into a ponytail. She was dressed in mostly black and was hugging another girl with brown hair that had blue in it. He pulled apart and the one with brown hair said something encouraging to the other. The darker-haired girl gave her a nod and a small smile before she turned to face me and the boy I was next to. Great, another antisocial butterfly. Exactly what we needed. She walked over to us, offering us a nervous smile, and said, "Hi, I'm Axel. I guess I'm on a team with you guys today." Her voice was very mellow as she stretched her arm out towards us. The boy next to me paused for a moment, but took her hand anyway. "Jake," he responded simply. I took a turn shaking her hands before saying, "I'm Neopolitan, but you guys can just call me Neo." They greeted me respectively with little warmth. It was clear that none of us was very sociable, and that we had all been shoved into an awkward situation. "Where's the 4th?" Axel asked, with her dark eyes looking past me to the board with our names. "I don't know," Jake replied, as both he and I turned to the screen. "I'm not far," a boy's voice laughed lightly. Three of us turned to face him. He wore a soft orange jacket with white fur on the edge of its hood. He had a similar shade of orange for his chin. For his chin-length hair that was messy but neat at the same time. He wore a black fedora-like hat with a white ribbon around it and an orange feather sticking out. He had a striking cat-like dark green eyes. Jeez. Anyways. Loki Meshiver at your service, he said smoothly. Before I realized what he was doing, he had picked up my hand and kissed lightly. My reaction was to go and slap him, but I realized that would probably get me into trouble, so I resisted. I was still on a very strict no fighting with other students policy. Instead, all I could do was glare at him. He gently released my hand and looked to Axel. Before he could do anything, she stepped back, put her hands up, and said, "No thanks." This made Loki chuckle, and he turned to look at Jake, arcing one of his eyebrows suggestively. "Don't even think about it," Jake told the other boy, his tone going from calm to threatening. This, however, only made Loki chuckle and say, "Suit yourselves." Goodwitch then called everyone's attention and announced that we would be traveling back to the Red Forest to gather tree sap. Wow! What ideas? Jesus. Okay. Whoa, what? Okay. But it was going to be filled with Grimm, so we'd have to be careful and be able to work with our new teams. We were loaded into airships and sent on our way. I caught a glimpse of black hair and a bow on the same ship and sighed in relief as I recognized her. "Hey, Blake," I called to her, happy to talk to someone I knew. "Hi, Neo," she nodded, coming over to me. "How's it going?" Okay. I looked over to my new team at Jake and Axel, who were trying to have a small conversation, and at Loki, who was very quickly getting on my nerves, and replied, "I guess we'll see." It then occurred to me that I knew a member of Blake's team who was also easy to anger and fight with. "How is Yang doing with all this?" Blake sighed. "Yang's not here. She's not feeling well. She woke up with a killer headache this morning and decided to stay behind." "Sorry to hear that," I said, feeling a bit sorry for Team RWBY. Yang was a great girl, but she was easy enough to anger without being in pain. I suppose that it wouldn't take much to set her off. Before Blake and I could talk much more, the aircraft we were on began to land and we rejoined our temporary teams. "Hey, sweetheart, I was beginning to think that you left me," Loki chuckled. I rolled my eyes and grumbled under my breath. If only I could get away that easily. We broke away from the main group and headed into the forest. The deeper in you got, the more likely you would get to a good tree with lots of sap, but at the same time, it was more likely that you were to encounter Grimm. Jake and Axel took a nearby tree while Loki and I worked on a different one. One person would actually gather the sap in jars, and the other would look out for any potential targets. Jake and Axel worked quickly and efficiently, only using a few words but getting the job done fast. Loki and I, on the other hand, moved a bit slowly because I had to do most of the work myself while Loki rambled on and on. And so, you see, I've been debating coming to Beacon for quite some time now, and the Vital Festival seemed like a perfect time to see what it was like, he was saying. "Oh, dear God, no, please do not come to Beacon," I thought to myself. It seemed like all Loki was capable of was leaning against a tree, talking about himself, and occasionally throwing flirtatious comments in my direction. "Can you hand me that glass jar over there?" I asked, cutting into his storytelling. "Anything for you, darling," he chuckled, retrieving the jar for me and taking the full one. "Please don't call me that," I groaned. "Whatever you say, babe," he winked at me. I growled to myself in frustration. I was actually debating killing him. I swore I'd never do it again, but if it would shut this guy up. "Incoming Grimm," Jake warned in a low voice. I looked up to see a single Beowulf lurking in the bushes nearby. Can one of you take care of it? Axel and I just need to fill the last few jars and we can go," I said, turning back to the tree. The two boys looked at each other. Loki made an after you motion with his hands. Jake sighed and pulled out his broadsword. "I can handle it," Jake said casually. He approached the Beowulf from behind and sliced it in half with a single swing of his sword. A surprised yelp escaped through the Beowulf's jaws before it died. Unfortunately, that was enough to signal other Grimm. A flock of tiny birds sized nevermore were startled and flew from some nearby trees. I didn't even realize until Jake shouted, "Look out!" He transformed his sword into a sniper. Oh, shit. And took a few of them out before they reached us. One of them fell from the sky and shattered the jar I was holding, sending jelly flying everywhere. I sighed in annoyance and turned to face the oncoming monster, saying, Axel, finish your jar. More will be coming after that noise. After all that noise. Right, the girl nodded, capping last jar. Let's move, I told the team. Ooh, I like it when you're bossy, Loki taunted. I paused in my tracks and bit my tongue, focusing on not shouting at him. He came up behind me, put a hand on my shoulder, and licked the sap off my face. Before that boy could blink, I had him pinned against a tree, with the tip of my blade pointing at his neck. If you ever do anything like that again, I'll carve your tongue out, I spat, holding him by the collar. That sounds like a challenge. He winked at me. I let my blade graze his neck lightly, seriously thinking about ending him as he hissed in pain. Jake and Axel watched silently from a distance. They'd probably let me do it, too. Do it, a voice in my head whispered. Run him through. I thought about the consequences. Not only would I have broken my word to myself, I'd be letting the people that I care about down. Not to mention I'd get locked up for it. I released his collar and sheathed my blade back to my umbrella. I turned away from him and towards the other two. There, we made it through our first fight. We're making progress. I could hear him grin in his voice. I have a boyfriend, I snapped it. I snapped, not even turning to look at him as Jake and Axel began following me back to the ship. Sure you do, Loki chuckled. Alright, so we're about halfway through this story at the moment. Yeah, so we'll do the next part. We'll do the next half of the story in the next video. Yeah, if that wasn't something that would be obvious already, you know,